And if you can't prove you're wrong, then you're probably onto something. So most business leaders I find do the opposite. And I have an example, which is about 6 or 7 years ago, I was a consultant. I was in between gigs and I was asked to be a consultant to help some guy. Because I've been a VP of sales 8 times, as you said, and a head of marketing. So I've really sort of deeply stuck my brain and my hands into trying to figure out, how to sell this thing and how to market this thing. So I went on three calls over on a week or so with one of the founders of the business. And each time at the end of the call, he was frustrated. And he said, they just don't get it. And after the third time he said that, I was quiet the first 2 times. And I said, your sentence is perfect, but your pronouns are backwards. They don't have to get anything. You have to get it. You have to understand, do they have a problem we're solving? And do they care about what you're doing? Because your customer, even your best customers really don't care what you do. They don't care how smart you are and all that kind of stuff. They only care about what you do does for them. They're trying to make progress in their lives. They're trying to overcome a struggle or make things better. And if you don't do that or don't do it well enough, if it's not high enough up the stack of what they care about, then they won't buy from you. Now, if you go and ask them, what do you think of my idea? People are generally nice, and they'll tell you what a great idea it is. Now, it's wonderful, and you're going to change the world, etc. And then when you say, oh, well, that's great. How many can I ask of you to buy for me? And they're like, oh, well, it's not the right time right now. We're sort of in the middle of a thing, but get back to me and whatever. That's when do they really value it. You want your customers to say, where have you been all my life? We've been trying to figure this thing out for whatever. And it seems like you've either solved it in a big way or you've solved it enough that it makes sense to me. Most founders don't do that. And that's the thing I have to teach them. I teach them, saying, well, you have to help me figure out if this product is worth what it is, what I think it is. And mostly I have to teach them a mindset change. The mindset change is you have to think more like a scientist, right? And use the scientific method, which is what I described, but you have a hypothesis and you're trying to disprove your hypothesis. Gravity is still a theory, but it is yet to be disproved. So that's what you need to do, right? And someday, if for some reason you throw your pen, in the air and it goes up instead of down, then we'll know that the theory of gravity was wrong. But so far, that hasn't happened. That's what you have to do with your theory of whatever product or service that you're selling. So that's what I do. I teach them a discovery process that really applies the scientific method to figuring out, am I solving a problem we're solving or not?
Amazing. I think that's awesome. And the greatest benefit of it all is you said something that I believe the audience really needed to hear is create whatever business you're stepping into, create the atmosphere where they say to you, where have you been? Where have you been all of my life, right? And creating that energy in that business relationship is phenomenal. And I think that right now, for those that are listening, please hone in on that statement and grab it and put it into action. So we have just a few more minutes before we close out the segment. It's been absolutely wonderful. There are many things that are important in life. And I love that you have so many principles and pillars, Bill, that you follow for your own life. What are the few things to you that are important in life?
For me personally, professionally?
You can do a composite of them all.
Got it. Okay, sure. Well, you mentioned something that's really important, and this is sort of one of the principles that I believe in as well, which is that few things truly matter, really in business or in life, but those that do matter tremendously. And those of your audience who are parents will understand what I said, because the day before you became a parent, there were so many things that felt really important to you that no longer seemed that important. When you first hold your child and you're thinking about the future of the child, you change your priorities tremendously. Your life is now about them much more than it is about you, where that's where it was beforehand. And that's the same thing about being a leader. And what I like to try to do as well is I try to figure out what are the few things that really matter to me, that are important to me. And it really revolves around two main constituents, really, which is my family, which is my daughter, basically. She is a priority for me. Um, and I say that to my clients. And, when I do beginnings of meetings, we do good news or we do appreciations, or et cetera. It's almost always about my daughter. And the other main constituent is my clients. And so even clients that I don't work with anymore, I still keep in touch with. And if I see something that comes to me and it's like, I think this would be useful to Sean, who I worked with before, and I'll send it off to you, because that's really what I'm trying to do is I certainly want to make money, and I'd make a decent amount of money, but I'm trying to bend the curve, as I like to say, is that most businesses go out of business. According to some stats from the Board of Bureau of Labor Statistics and some other places, about 50% of the time, businesses go out of business in 5 years or less. And about 85% of the time, give or take, they go out of business within 25 years. Most businesses go out of business. Most businesses fail, which I think is a shame, because some really great ideas, really great people, and really great businesses fail for preventable reasons. And that's what I've been studying for 30 years, which is, why do some businesses not only succeed, but thrive? And that stat of 50% in 5 years is interesting, because, that's an either or, right? So 50% die and 50% continue. But those that continue don't thrive. Most of those struggle mightily. And again, they struggle for completely preventable reasons. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to figure out, how can I bend the curve as much as possible? I'm only one person. That's why I wrote the book. That's why I'm part of Marshall Goldsmith's organization that has reach around the world, to almost any influential person in the world. I have a 1 degree separation from. Alan Mulally is in my book. Alan Mulally was the head of Ford and Boeing, and he's a friend of mine now. So he was asked to be on the cabinet of presidents in the United States and such. I mean, he's a really influential man around the world, and I can give him a call. And I'd like to use those relationships and those things to really help as many leaders as I can, to let them know that you're making it much harder than you need to be. You should simplify your business more than anything. Most businesses die of indigestion, not of starvation. So that's what I'm trying to do. Those are sort of the two main things that I focus my time on. And, I do a bunch of things. You said you work out. So I have my core values, which are around, fitness and health and mastery and all that kind of stuff. But those are the two main things that I'm trying to do. It's really help my daughter to be the best possible version of herself she can be, and get out of her way as much as possible, but ask her some really good questions every now and again. Like how can I be a better father to you is the question I ask her, every few years. And then the same thing with my clients. It's really just find ways to help them be the best possible version of that business as they can, and not have it take over their lives.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. So we are just about ready to close, and I always ask every guest on the show as we close, if you could leave one golden nugget of wisdom with the listening audience. We're closing out 2021. We're just a few days before the new year. So if you could provide from your file a golden nugget of wisdom and inspiration.
Sure. I've given a couple already, but I'll do another one that I haven't said yet, which is there's typically a large gap between what science knows about how to run a really good business, and science. I have this question all the time. People think, well, there's different science. There's no different science. There's science. Science is, again, a hypothesis that has yet to be proven untrue. And sometimes it gets added onto, like, Einstein added on to what Newton said, and Niels Bohr added on to what Einstein said. And it wasn't like Einstein and Newton were wrong, but they weren't completely right. So really understand the science of business. And this revolves around things like, as I said, is customer discovery, and understanding that people hire you for a job that they want to get done. You got to figure out what that job is and try to fulfill it as the best you can. The example I always like to give is, Steve Jobs. One of the things that was brilliant about Steve Jobs, which most people don't even talk about, they say other things, which I think he was good at, but I think sometimes he gets way too much credit for things. But this thing he should really get credit for is he was a highly curious person. And he wanted to understand why things were. So he didn't go up to people when he first, came back to Apple the second time and said, how can I make a better Walkman? He said, why do you have that? What job does it serve for you to do? Where is it letting you down? And he found out all these things. And he finally went back to his engineering team and said, I think if we make a thing that's an MP3 player that has the Apple design, right? The simply amazing and amazingly simple approach to design, and it has 1,000 songs that can fit in your pocket, I think we'll have something. And he was right. Because he didn't try to make something better. He tried to solve a job that was getting done for someone. This is a good example of Google Maps, and Waze is another great example, right? Waze didn't try to make a better map. They tried to figure out how to get you from point A to point B with that as quickly as possible and on time. And so they came up with a completely different way to do it. And Google bought them for over $1 billion when they were really small. So you really have to focus on sort of the science of business versus conventional wisdom. We're mostly told that you have to give people feedback. You have to, you have to execute in a certain way and whatever. And that's just not true. By the way, feedback is like the worst thing to give to people. It's the last thing that you should give, and only in like an emergency should you absolutely do it. People don't like to be told what to do. We have something called reactance. Our first reaction to being told what to do, or what they say, the five most the scariest 5 words in business is, can I give you some feedback? We hate it. That's science, because the brain doesn't like feedback. You should give people autonomy and try to have them figure out how to help themselves. And most businesses don't do that. They're told all the time, you have to give feedback. There's some books out there, radical this, and you must do that, and you mustn't. You can, and sometimes you must, but only as a last resort, in my opinion. There's so many different ways to help someone that goes beyond telling them what to do. So that's sort of the thing, which is there's a great gap between what science knows and business does. And if you focus on really understanding those few really basic principles, you'll do a much better job being a leader than you are today.
Thank you so much, Bill, for sharing that with us. So if you could, as we close out, share with the listening audience where they may follow you, partner with you, call upon you. Go ahead and share with the audience, please, how they may connect with you.
Certainly. The best way is really my website, which is catalystgrowthadvisors.com. My contact info is on there. My calendar is on there. You can actually book a meeting with me. My book is on there for free. As I said, I'm trying to bend the curve. And so I'd like to make money on my book, but most of the books that people get from me are downloaded from my website for free. You can certainly get them on Amazon and Audible, etc. But that's the best place to get me, is catalystgrowthadvisors.com.
Awesome. Thank you guys for tuning in to today's episode with Bill Flynn. Bill, thank you again. As always, we are glad that you have decided to follow and to tune into the Sean Inspires podcast. Do stay strong and stay inspired. This is the final episode for 2021. Bye now. Take care.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Same to you.
Oh, and he's gone.